Hello and welcome to the Harrington Group International Supplier Portal discussion, where you don't have to be a billion-dollar global company to have a world-class supplier portal. There are substantial benefits and cost savings when you use Harrington for managing supplier quality issues, enabling true supply chain collaboration, increasing the speed that supplier receives and incorporates the information from your company, reduce all the handling costs of sorting, distributing, organizing, searching documents on both sides of the supply chain, and reducing the variation and waste in the entire process. Today, we're going to change the approach a little bit from the last time we had a supplier portal demo, where we spent a lot of time going through screens and clicking, where we're going to talk big picture about the capability and process. And we hope that you're interested enough to schedule a personal demo for your company so we can look at your specific requirements. We have a great group today across several markets and actually several countries, and a good mix of both executives and practitioners, the people in the field trying to do all this stuff today. The phones are muted because of that, but we would like to take your questions, so please enter them in the question block. Copy of the presentation is available on the screen right now. If you missed that, we can send it to you afterwards. And everyone who attends today will get a certificate of attendance if you're using any CUU points. Big picture, supply chain risk mitigation. The supplier portal, the Harrington supplier portal, again, enables better communication with your suppliers. In a way where the bottom line is better performance, because managers can make more informed decisions that will impact the risk in your company. The scorecards, just a centralized standard environment for ratings based on past performance, but most importantly, defensible scorecards. And we'll talk about that in a little bit. But probably the most important, we've got quite a few purchasing people on the call today, is a specific, measurable, and immediate ROI with the ability to issue debit memos and reduce the labor and inspection with dock-to-stock logic. And we'll go through that a little bit too. To make this happen quickly and for lowest cost, there are three main elements. We need the portal. By the way, this portal is branded for you and launched from your website. The scorecards that, again, are automated. No more grabbing data from here and putting it in here and putting it in Excel, and hopefully all the math works out and everything looks good. And integration, whether it's with your ERP system, your PLM app, with the HQMS, which is the Enterprise Harrington app. The bottom line is this entire subject is all configured to meet your specific needs. So let's kind of go through these. Supplier portal access. First of all, highly secured. Data entry by both suppliers and resource on your side, authorized logins only. There's no way to break in and do it. Harrington has been putting together websites and capability for highly regulated government defense contractors, people that have to work in these secure environments for the last 20 years. So this is kind of common knowledge to us. But the other one is the suppliers maintain their contacts and logins for their account. This is their responsibility, not your IT department, and not your quality department, not your supplier quality engineers. Now, this might not seem like a lot, but other portals have failed, or at least had a lot of non-value-added labor, because managing supplier users was always on the customer side and just took a lot of time and effort that really wasn't needed. So what we start with at Harrington is a template, and again, configured to meet your needs. And the example, we'll go through what the template looks like, look at your dashboard, your forms, and how they would look together. So the ability to build a library is part of it as well. Customized guide for your suppliers, the instructions you want for them, links to any URLs you want in your organization, externally, anything again. Whatever forms you want them to be able to one-click download, or any other documents you want. Pretty common to most portals. Again, just want to make sure you know that, yes, it has a capability. But We want suppliers to have one-click access to key documents and material. Along those lines, the forms in the app that we're going to go through, I want to let you know, again, you're going to see configured to meet your needs everywhere. You can customize any form. So we're going to go through some templates and examples, but you can take any form you want, configure it the way you want. And the goal, again, on your end is let's get rid of the paper documents, the faxes, get rid of the manual entries and errors by humans trying to figure this out, reduce the handling costs. Your form, your process made easier. The scorecard. Again, you configure the scorecard. You build it how you want. But the components in general are a quality score, where we look at receiving performance and corrective action performance. The receiving score is based on what kind of non-conformance activity you're seeing from supplier or purchased parts. The corrective action score has a lot to do with, how serious is it? Level 1 having the least impact, level 3 having the most. Delivery score is based on two things. Early and late deliveries impact the supplier score. So it just looks at what data is supposed to come in and when we actually got it and the impact of that. And then cost is pretty straightforward based on cost. And the service is just an average of response time and your customer satisfaction scores. But you configure this, what weights in them, how it wants to be built, how you want it to be included. This is just an example of the template we start with. Messaging, the messaging window. This is where most communication problems start. I thought you sent that to them. I thought they sent it to us. The version I have, I don't know if it's current. All those things that you go through in your daily life, trying to struggle through who got what. Let's eliminate that. Put in a centralized communication log versus these emails. Fast access, easy to review and reply. And, it seems too much simple, and it is. But the fastest way for multiple contacts on both sides of the supply chain to find out what's going on is this screen. Supplied parts, pretty straightforward. Just managing all the parts with the supplier, whether it's one supplier or many suppliers who make the same part. This is typically integrated with an ERP or PLM app. Doesn't have to be. You can run it standalone, but there's no use re-entering data if you already have it built somewhere else. The audit list. This is your ability to define a standard audit, supplier audit, for your entire supply base, including specific performance metrics. Each supplier, through the portal, gets immediate access to their score, are expected to perform their own internal audits to verify. And so as a note, this manages both your audits of your suppliers and supplier internal audits. They can use it for internal as well. Again, each supplier is expected to get a detailed verification plan when they get an audit and they have audit findings. When the score is below a predetermined level, and the plan is implemented is monitored. So supplier audits now become, what's the best way to say that? It's just not a one and done, go in and, from the supplier's view, come in and waste my time and aggravate me for a couple of days and leave. It really enables the ability to execute it and keep it as it should be, a living communication process between you and your suppliers. Well, the other one is corrective actions. You assign the corrective action to your suppliers, maybe from an audit we just went through. The supplier provides their root cause, their solution, their objective evidence. And again, the idea is just to improve communication in both directions to reduce mistakes. Eliminate that non-value added waste of looking for stuff, and improves consistency by reducing the variation of how we did it with that supplier and how SQA did it, and how this buyer did it, put it all in a common infrastructure. One that we don't want to deal with, but we kind of have to, is nonconformances. Manage all the supplier nonconformances in one location and connect it to debit memos. Debit memos are the place where you get a rapid ROI to an investment into the Harrington Supplier Portal. This is a very simple but powerful financial incentive, debit memos. They provide the rapid ROI. Now, at Harrington, we understand that no company wants to have a profit center or revenue center based on supplier nonconformances. Of course not. And every company wants the parts to show up on time and be 100% acceptable. But the reality is, our experience has been that when suppliers are held financially accountable for their mistakes, the mistakes tend to go away. Now, again, on the template, you see that, again, the debit memo is pretty easy to configure. Material costs, labor costs, the calculations of it, the numbers are used for it. Again, very easy to get up and running pretty quick. Supplier deviations. This, again, is very simple but powerful collaboration process. What you're doing is you're asking your suppliers to contact you up front before shipping to authorize any variations from the requirements. Packaging, dimensional issues, anything at all, anything that you would reject in receiving, tell us up front. A supplier can initiate it regarding substitute parts, again, any of those. And the relevant parties are all notified via email. Now, I've been told in some other conversation that, well, we already do this. And I go, okay, well, how's it work? And they go, well, not very well. It's kind of poor. And I go, well, why? Well, our buyers get frustrated. The manufacturing, the plants get frustrated. Even the suppliers get frustrated because there's a poor response time. So, again, getting it consolidated and consistent across all of them means I can get a faster response to these requests. So imagine this. Imagine if you went to your supplier and said, hey, if you got any issues, tell us about it. And they tell you about it and you don't respond to them. Those are the kind of frustrations that we got to get away from. So you can now look at the amount of material rejected and received in a section by your team and how often the supplier proactively reaches out to you with a deviation request. Again, if we've got a high amount of finding and receiving, we got to go back to that supplier and say, why didn't you tell us about this? And now, by the way, there's two answers to that. One, they didn't know about it. That's a whole nother story. Or two, they knew about it and didn't want to risk telling you. Either way, we got to find those out. So the bottom line is we want the supplier to tell us up front, and we prefer upfront deviations that have to go through nonconformance reports and the debit memos. PPAP list. Whether you use first article inspections, new product introductions, production part approval process, whatever term you use in your industry, whatever steps you use, basically the ability for you to define the deliverables from a vendor that are required prior to shipping parts. Again, huge ability to put it together in such a way that here's the deliverables, what's the progress. Some folks have connected this to ERPs to verify the PPAP went through and got approved. Once that's approved, it's important because, again, another problem that we hear a lot in the field is the annoying, they go, John, we can't even answer this question. We don't even know if the PPAP's approved. So it's sitting and receiving. I've got to get the parts into production. I don't even know if I can use them because we don't know if it's approved. We're waiting on somebody to get an email from somebody. Get rid of all that stuff. Receiving, inspection, and dock to stock. Dock to stock is another huge process improvement. If you spend any time in receiving inspections, you're going to hear the inspectors get frustrated with a lot of things like, I don't know why I always have to check parts on this supplier. And over 10 years, I've never had a problem with them. Or the opposite of that. This supplier is always a problem. It's been a problem since we started getting parts from them. I don't know why we still buy from this vendor. It's always an issue. So let's improve that. Let's get configurable dock to stock, the number of days you want to go through, how long consecutive ones to increase or decrease, what levels you're at. Again, anyone that has tried to do this outside of a Harrington-like business system have been on binders and spreadsheets. And again, when we're back into receiving, I've spent a lot of time in receiving. The vendors go, I don't have time to update that. Manufacturing's yelling at me. I got to get these things approved. They don't know if the PPAP's approved. Yeah, we don't do that. So let's simplify it. Let's make it easier. Now, this example has been created over the last couple of years with some of our customers. And it's basically supplier self-service. So when we said improve supplier collaboration, we meant it. Another time-consuming game of phone tag, email tag, can just a couple clicks. And when a vendor can go in and do this, they say thank you, and it's very much appreciated. So what we're suggesting is the supplier should offer the ability to perform these inquiries. Did you get my parts? What's the status of the PO? Did we get paid? And actually, through using the Harrington portal, giving them access without access to to your ERP system. Now, the reason for that is there's two main reasons for that. One is security issues in the ERP. They can't get access to anything and all that. But the other one is, in a lot of cases in the supplier portals, you have to pay for an ERP license. So there's a cost associated with that. So again, just a quick way to go grab some information out of the ERP app, put it in the supplier portal so your suppliers can go in and get common things that they want to know about answered without contacting your buyers, without engaging your team. Let them self-service it. Supplier users. We've already mentioned this, but I want to make sure you understand how much time this saves your team. Suppliers have the ability to add and change users on their end, so you don't have to do it. Now, again, it doesn't sound like a big thing, but if we put this portal out there, we want suppliers to engage. We don't want them to get frustrated by, I didn't have access. Hey, Cachet, can I use your passwords? I got to get in to look at this thing. And we know that sharing all that is security and all those issues, but we want them to be able to run with it and manage it. And the easier we make it for them to control their side of the portal, the higher the use is. And again, that's been proven over and over based on our deployments. So here's what's going on with the Harrington portal. Risk management is important operational improvement. Using a tool like this gets daily automated operational improvements incorporated into how you're doing business in a timely manner. And when we do this, your supply chain becomes highly visible. Now, this is a great value to both customers and suppliers, and it's attainable and necessary in order to get the improvements we're looking for. And the more visible we are, the more and when I say we, now I'm talking about customers, suppliers, both sides of the table. The more visible we are, the more transparent we are, the more communication we are, trust increase. And as you know, when you get visibility like this, the trust is critical. All right, those might be too touchy-feely for you as far as an ROI goes. So let's get back into very specific, tangible ones. We already talked about debit memos. Charge back to suppliers for material and labor costs associated with material nonconformances. One of the accounts that I did some work with, privately held company, we put in a system like this, and the VP of Quality is presenting to the owner, the president, and the board that they recovered $6 million from the supplier based on these debit memos. And the owner leaned back in his chair and he said, wow, how does that compare to last year? And the VP of Quality said, well, we couldn't do it last year. We had nothing in place or process to do that. So again, we don't want to be in the debit memo business, but boy, if you want to put a system like this in and get it paid for real quickly, this is a way to do it. Again, the other ROI is with that dock to stock logic where we're not spending money, labor on good vendors that always perform. We save more money on it. And be able to focus on that, again, is very tangible. That's a labor cost that everyone can do. And it's not just labor costs. It's this one may be difficult to look at, but manufacturing delays. All those times where we had to bring on a second, and we got to stay on second shift or work the weekends, those tend to go away. And then, the supplier performance with defensible scorecards. And let me spend more time on defensible scorecards. It's very, very important. Some attempts to create these scorecards create the unintended consequence of, again, spending non-value added labor time trying to argue, justify, and defend the score. This is just it's a bummer that frustrates both your team and the suppliers. Don't do it. Get it automated, get it mechanical, get it well-defined, and say, here's the nonconformances we looked at, here's the delivery we looked at, it's all data-driven and automated. No room for spreadsheet errors, no room for, oops, I forgot that one. A little bit about Harrington. I don't want to spend a whole lot on this, but we provide critical technologies and innovative processes to help design and put in things like these portals. So several of the customers have been with us for over 10 years, some over 15 years. At a recent trade show, employees from a major aerospace company came up to me and said, we love your product, we love your team. And, I guess I'm sharing with you because, what could be better than that? But we're committed to your success. So what were the next steps like? I mean, again, I know we didn't click through the demo and go through that. We'd like to schedule that with your team, but it might look something like this. First of all, let's see if we can figure out what supplier nonconformance costs you're currently experiencing, if you have it. So what kind of problems are those causing us? And then start the process of going through and looking at what forms you want to use, what documents you want available, what kind of ERP or PLM integration you want, and that's basically what you want done, how you want it done, and when. Create a rough order of magnitude pricing, and the pricing varies based on the number of your users, the number of suppliers you want to go in, and the number of suppliers is by supplier site, not by the number of users at a supplier. So when I was talking earlier about a supplier could add 10 users if they want, that does not impact the cost. It's by supplier site. And then any other customization, integration costs, what kind of term you want. But I had a guy I was talking to this morning. He said, are you going to show an example, rough order of magnitude pricing? And I wasn't planning on it, but I'm doing it based on their request. So let's just look at this. If you said that you wanted 10 users on your side, you've got 50 suppliers that you want to put in, you do a 5-year term. It's hosted by Harrington. By the way, it can be on-premise or hosted, doesn't matter. The annual charge is $36,000. There's a one-time setup fee, what includes a single sign-on with your IT group. The customization integration, that varies, so I don't really know what it'd be. It depends what you want. And then we usually do just a minimum 2-day training, one set for the admin people using the tool and the other one for userings. So it's not a lot of money. I mean, if you look at that, that's about $60 per month per supplier, assuming the users on your end are free. And again, the ROI is very quick. If your research shows that we average, I'm making these numbers up, 25,000 in supplier problems in receiving and in process every month, you'll find the payoff very quickly. So thank you for your time. I'm hoping I'm going to see some questions in the system, so let's take a look at that and we'll see if there are any out there. All right, there's only a couple. Let's take a look at this. Just a quick note. It said, please explain the supplier licensing again. So the supplier licensing is by company. So how many suppliers you have? It's not by how many users are at the supplier. And we wanted simple pricing to make it easier to deploy and maintain and provide the supplier flexibility not often found in some other portals. The next question is, you stated configured to meet your needs. What if our needs are very complex? Well, The Harrington Group is not just a software development body shop. It's a group of proven quality, operational excellence, and software subject matter experts. That this might seem weird, but we just don't do something to make a dollar. And you go, well, why wouldn't you do that? Well, because that's how projects fail and customers get mad. We have turned down projects that we believe have a very low probability of success. So sometimes we bring some advice and say, hey, there's a simpler way. If it goes back and forth, that's great. If not, it is what it is. Next question is, how well does your developers understand the quality processes? We tried to offshore a portal and it failed miserably due to communication problems. All right, this is a good question. It is very frustrating when you speak with developers and it starts with, what's a corrective action request? So our development team, again, is our team has been with Harrington for over 20 years. We know it, we get it. And that's how we can develop very quickly and relatively inexpensively. All right, only a couple more. How do you increase and decrease receiving inspection again? That's based on the logic of, and usually you say, I'm going to check everything. But if this vendor passed 3 times in a row, 5 times in a row, 10 times, whatever number you want to configure into it, then it goes to less inspection. So there's just a very systematic, easy to define way to say, here's how I want to systematically reduce my receiving inspection time. I think this is from the guy that, well, I know it is. This is from the guy that said, show the rough order magnitude price. He says, we're discussing a supplier portal with our ERP provider and your price seems too low. What's the catch? Well, you remember our tagline at the beginning of the event, you don't have to be $1 billion company to have world's class supplier portal. There's no catch. Harrington for 3 decades has focused on providing high value solutions with very rapid ROIs. That is why so many customers have been with us for over 10 years, some more 15 years. Hold on, he's typing one more. Do you have any year-end deals? Good question. And, there's always year-end deals, but I mean, in general, no, there's not necessarily a deal per se, but if you need something we're at the end of the year, so you got money, you want to spend it. I'll tell you this, we can put it together in such a way that you only pay for what you need. So as we go through all this, you go, look at, this is what I need in order to deploy. We can get you some pretty aggressive pricing. And then for the rest of you on the call that are looking at budgets for next year, by all means, contact us, engage with us, and we'll go through the ability to do that. Let's see, I think I got one more showing. Oh, this is a good question. Once suppliers are added, does Harrington train the suppliers on how to use the portal? We can. We don't have to, but we can. A lot of times we do that by creating videos for you based on your portal, based on your process. And remember that one screen where there was a link on the far right that said the user manual or user guide? We can put the video there. But again, if you need supplier training on the portal, we'll train them. If you don't have to. So it really just depends on what you're looking for. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. Again, hopefully I got you interested enough to contact us and see if we can set up a conversation and a demo with your team. Thank you for your time.